heat up your frozen dinners, grab your TV tray, and settle in for another episode of the Plus Platoon, your podcast for all things Disney Plus, brought to you by Disney Plus fans. Watch along with us every week as we cover all the new, the old, the good, and the bad on Disney Plus. So put down that remote, don't touch that dial, and welcome your fabulous Plus Platoon host.
Hey everyone, my name's Derek and I am a member of the Plus Platoon. The Plus Platoon is a Disney Plus fan podcast, and we give honest, spoiler-filled reviews of the good, the bad, the new, and sometimes the old that's on Disney Plus. Make sure you're subscribed with us and you'll never miss an episode. I would like to welcome in to our show my girl Kate. Kate, how you doing this evening? You're also on mute, Kate.
I'm so good. We're talking about baseball, which is my favorite sport. So I'm ready.
Sounds great. Next, we're going to bring in Peter. Pete, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. I'm a fan of baseball too, and I got my Nightmares
shirt on,
baseball jersey on. So
awesome.
Kept with the theme, except I don't actually have a team jersey, but
that's okay. Next, we have got Rebecca. Rebecca, how's your evening going?
It's going great. I am a little not a fan of baseball, but still excited to be here. Guys, I played soccer. I can't like anything else. It's just a rule.
Okay, and since we do have the entire crew back together, we've got Sam. Sam,
hello.
How you doing?
Hello, I'm doing great, representing for New York. You know, we're talking about the great
Sam. Where's the button?
We're talking about the great Bambino today, so I had to bring it back home. I'm originally from New York. My family's from the Bronx, although I was raised in the suburbs. And gotta bring it home for New York. Even though Kate's got her Boston Red Sox hat on, she's trying to give me the evil eye, I think.
Yeah, not exactly loved here in Kansas City either. So
I'm from Massachusetts, so yeah, we're not fans of New York Yankees either. So
we're not loved anywhere. But I also have, for good measure, I do have my current home team, which is the Mariners, the Seattle Mariners.
I'll go for the Mariners. Yeah. So, well. First thing we're going to get off to tonight is the Disney Plus news. Kate, what have we got for news this week? I just clicked the wrong button.
You made her disappear.
I thought y'all were saying she's muted again. I was like, no, I just checked that. Hey, everybody, it is time for the Disney Plus news. First up, Monsters at Work debuted today with 2 episodes. Get excited about that. The Black Widow, or just Black Widow, on Disney Plus Premium comes out this Friday, and the Loki finale is July 14th. So I hope you're enjoying Loki. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Behind the Attraction comes out July 21st. That's when it premieres. And I'm going to ask my platooners when we're done to make sure I'm saying it right, but I believe that it talks about different rides and attractions at the theme parks, which is going to be really interesting. Last up, Turner and Hooch, the series starts on July 21st. And that is it for Disney Plus news.
Yay, Turner and Hooch.
Yay, Behind the Attraction.
Yes.
We're all excited about that. I've got some pictures behind me. I've got Pirates behind me. I've got Haunted Mansion. I've got Space Mountain pictures. I'm excited. Yeah.
Yeah. Kate did get that exactly right. It is, each episode will focus on the background story of an attraction. And
that's what I meant.
This is one that I really hope is more than one season. I would love more than 10 episodes. So, well, this week, if you couldn't guess, we're viewing The Sandlot. The Sandlot has come back to Disney Plus, and we're going to pull it out of that vault and review it. Now, there are going to be those of you who say it's not originally a Disney movie. You're correct. But since Disney bought Fox, it's on the Disney Plus. It's a Disney movie. We're going to talk about it because, let's face it, it's baseball. So now, first question up. And Rebecca, I'm going to throw this over to you. Rebecca, is The Sandlot a home run?
No, and I have very strong reasons why. So I honestly was having a hard time figuring out why I didn't like this movie. And it wasn't until my emetophobia came up that I remembered. So emetophobia, for those who don't know, is a intense fear of throwing up and vomit and getting sick in general. And of course, now you guys all probably know exactly the scene that I'm talking about. Aside from, a bunch of children taking chewing tobacco, this scene has been engraved in my mind as like the worst movie scene I've ever seen possible. I watched this movie once before and was like, I can never watch that movie again. I don't remember what movie it's from, but whatever it was, I just can't do it because the thing with the phobia is that you replay it over and over and over again. So I have a vivid memory of what that scene looks like when they're on the ride and they get sick and they come out drenched in vomit all over I can see it now. And to even finish watching the movie this time, I had to not finish watching the movie. I distracted myself so that I didn't get sick, so that I didn't feel nauseous. And it sucks. If they removed that entire scene from the movie, I feel like it would have been a fine movie. The characters are really, they were great. I thought they were developed well. Benny is obviously super cute at the time and stuff. So like it was still a nice movie to watch, but that scene in general just kind of ruins the whole thing because it's a fear of mine. Not that I think that it's a bad movie, but I just don't think it really added anything to it too, if I'm being honest. That's the only thing they did at the fair was get sick on the ride. They didn't need to have children having chewing tobacco, And so for me, it's not a home run. I don't think I'll ever watch it again. And now I have to relive with trying to forget that scene again. So,
I'm sorry.
I will say, Rebecca, if we had known that, you could have had the week off. I mean, sorry about that.
I didn't know it was from that movie. I just remembered that scene, and I know that like it's in a movie that I've seen before only once because I've seen that scene happen. And so whenever it started zooming in on the thing, I was like, oh, it is this movie. Like, that's why I'm not watching it. That's why I've never been the fan, because I subconsciously knew, but I didn't really know. So Sam, what do you think?
This is so hard for me because this movie brings back a lot of nostalgia, and I remember seeing this movie back when it first came out. I'm guessing I saw it in the theater, although I don't have a specific memory of that. It was in 1993, and that was a time where I was a young teenager or preteen and was going to a lot of movies, and I loved sports movies always. I was big into, Rookie of the Year, Angels in the Outfield, all these Disney sports movies that were amazing around that, time period. But I have to say, this movie now, I didn't love it. There were a lot of scenes that really made me cringe. I mean, the throw up scene is one of them, Rebecca. I have to agree with you, and I won't belabor on it much because it's just a horrific, disgusting scene that was not necessary for the movie. But I also, there's like some bullying, there's a lot of sexism, there's just, why does Scott Smalls not become worthy of being a friend to these other kids until Benny? I see you saying he's a square, but you know what? There's a lot of kids who are squares. There's a lot of nerdy kids who build director sets or now actually play Minecraft. My son is one of them. And so, not to say he can't play sports also, but like it just, I don't know. There were a lot of things. I'll be honest. I loved this movie back in the 90s, but there's a lot of things in the movie that really made me cringe now. And so I can't say I loved it. There were parts that I really enjoyed and there are parts that I really didn't enjoy. So I wouldn't call it a home run for me. Kate? Sorry about that, friend.
So this movie, which, okay, you know what? Before I go into how much I love this movie, I will give you that. I will give you that there are parts that are like, ooh, that didn't age well. But and that's, I think the part when talking about Smalls and he goes, he's an L7 weenie. Like, I don't know why. It just makes me laugh. But Grand Slam. I love this movie, but I don't know if I love it because it's the first movie I ever saw in theaters. And I will forever have a crush on Benny the Jet Rodriguez, always. I also had a crush on Yaya, but that's neither here nor there. I always wanted to own a pair of PF Flyers. I think that this movie, yes, there are parts like when he's like, you play ball like a girl. Like, oh, thank you. Thank you for that compliment. Like, I better play ball like a girl because that means I could school all of you. So, like, that's kind of where my head went. Yes, the vomit scene, we won't even talk about it, Rebecca, is gross. I cannot hear the song Tequila without thinking about that scene. I do know that the chewing tobacco, because I'm a big nerd who was Googling things whilst watching, trying to hear the backstory. The chewing tobacco was made of black licorice and bacon. That is what they...
That sounds worse.
I was going to say it's what tastes worse.
The kids really did get sick because they made them ride the ride so many times to get the right shot that they actually did get sick. So...
that's kind of hilarious.
Stop talking about this.
It's going to be a day. It has been a dream of mine to be Squints and Wendy Peppercorn dressed up someday. I love this movie. It's so good. And how Benny is like the leader of them. And he totally stands up for Smalls when they're making fun of him. And he's like, what are you talking about? Yeah. Like you walk like a duck. And he's like, oh, okay. But like, I just love this movie. Anyway, I'm going to stop because I could go on for so long. Derek.
It's absolutely a home run for me. Absolutely a home run. See, I don't hate everything.
I think you're lying. I think there's a plant.
No,
I don't think Derek. This is not Derek. He sent his evil twin. It's Mr. Curtin.
Sure. Anyway, I'd say this is one of the best sports movies out there. It's a really fun watch. The quotes, the comedy, the feel-good ending. It's all great. I love that it doesn't focus too much on the adults. It's all about the kids. Yes, there's his mom and dad, and then the James Earl Jones at the end, but it's not. We don't have scenes where it's just the adults. It's all about the kids, which I love. It's also that rare sports movie where there's not a championship competition. They're not playing for the title, which is very refreshing because not everyone plays for the title. This is just kids out playing baseball. So, I mean, for me, absolute home run. Okay, so we're 2-2. Pete, what's it going to be?
I'm going to go with Team Derek on this one. I'm not quite sure I'd say home run, but definitely a triple to off the outfield wall. I really enjoyed this movie. I know I saw it before because I remembered things as they were coming, but I didn't really remember the movie. I thought it was a lot of fun. Being the oldster of this group, I mean, I don't even know if they do this anymore, but when I was a kid, that's how you played sports, really, was you got together with your friends, and I was the nerdy kid, and I sucked at sports, but my friends still let me participate, and we did more football than baseball. We did a little bit of baseball, but we would basically do the same thing they did in this movie and go out and, have 6 people and we play football for 2 hours or something like that. Mm-hmm. So we did baseball too. But anyways, I thought it was funny. Some of the uncomfortable stuff to me, again, I forgive things when they're like, it's set in the 60s, right? So I mean, like, yeah, of course you're going to say you run like a girl because that's what kids would have done in the 60s, or whenever it was, early 60s. I can't, if it was set today, yeah, I would have a problem with that. But overall, I just thought I laughed a lot. The whole part with the dog, I was worried that it was just going to go on too long, but it kind of went just right. And you kind of knew where it was going and everything. It just reminded me a lot of A Christmas Story, which has become like a holiday classic. and it's still got that same personality of, you know, kind of nostalgia, and, you know, not, there's some reality to it, but then it kind of goes off into almost more imaginary. I mean, the whole stuff with the dog, that's like, it's kind of more, it's fantastical, right? It's this giant dog as he appears sometimes. So I just really enjoyed it a lot. And so I'm on the thumbs up side. So I liked it.
Let's see what our audience has to say. Gina says, movie's so nostalgic for me. So many great scenes. She loves Hercules. Ryan's going, it's an absolute classic. Does think your Wendy Peppercorn and Squints would be a great Halloween costume. Jess is, agreed, both cringy and wonderfully nostalgic. Yeah. So now that brings us to our second question. What should be updated? What needs to be changed about the movie? And for that, I think we are going to start with Pete. Pete, what would you change? What needs to be updated?
I don't think there's much that needs to be updated, but if you were going to remake it now, you would have to have some girls on the team. I think that would be the big difference that you would have in a modern adaptation. As I said, something that, even if it's set back then, I think you would still, you know, put a couple girls on the team. And you'd probably take out some of those comments, but overall, I don't think there's much to change in this movie. You know, I know, you know, some people probably could talk about the kissing scene with Wendy Peppercorn and say he was taking advantage of her, but even there, I don't know. It's not. There's a lot worse things in movies than that. So, you know, that probably wouldn't make it into a movie today, but I didn't think it was, you know, a horrendous thing to do. But, you know, it was okay. I'm sure the girls will want to talk about that once more. But so I'll go to Rebecca on this. I know one thing that she would change, and we don't even have to talk about that. But are there other things you would change, Rebecca?
Yeah. So besides the obvious, and I was actually going to touch on the lifeguarding scene. As a lifeguard who has gone through the training myself, that was so unbelievably unrealistic. She's wearing a whistle but throws it off, and then she dives in. You don't do that. She didn't do any rescue. She didn't have her that's more just a technical. I know the lifeguarding drills and how you're supposed to do it, so that was unreasonable. Didn't even check for breathing, just went straight to kissing the boy. And so, you know, it's like that was just so completely wrong that I was like, okay, they're just doing this for movie. And I totally get that aspect. So maybe redoing that whole scene, taking it out. Again, I don't really know what it added. He can just have this admiration for the girl, and that's totally fine. We've seen that in other movies. If you've ever seen Grown Ups, the two little kids in that movie have, you know, adorations for the older teenager girls, but they never do anything cringy or weird, and it's just that, you know, they could take the whole thing out and there would be no problem. It was a funny scene, I will say, but if you're going to re-update anything, if you're going to remake it, make it either more logical or just take it out completely, and then take out the vomiting like that. I really guys, it's so bad. Every time someone says it, I just read, and now I can't think about the song Tequila without thinking about it. I didn't even realize that.
Thanks, Kate.
Yeah,
thanks,
exactly.
Kate.
But I kind of, like Pete said, those are probably the only two things. And I really wish I could have paid attention more to it, because I was a little bit confused in the beginning because I didn't understand where the story was going. It didn't seem like it had like an actual plot line, and more of just like, okay, we're just watching these kids hang out, have fun, and then, you know, this love for the sport. And so I guess and nothing really caught me from the beginning anyway. So
yeah,
maybe more, yeah.
Doesn't really have a plot until, like, a defined plot until the ball gets lost or taken by Hercules. Yeah. So
it did remind me a little bit of the Little Rascals. They're obviously an older age range of kids, but they have the same type of thing. These kids that run, you know, they have their own little stuff and they focus on it. So I thought it was good, but, you know, whatever. Those are the two things that I would update on it. What about you, Sam?
The lifeguard scene. I I'm sorry, but that's non-consensual kissing is sexual assault. I'm going to say it again. Non-consensual kissing is sexual assault. I don't care whether it's between kids or whether it's between adults. It's not okay. It's the part that 13-year-old me didn't cringe about, but 40-year-old me cringes. So yeah, that is, I would, there's some other things that I could kind of live with because of the time it's set in, even though it was made in the 90s. But yeah, that part I would just completely take out. I would change. You could still have the storyline with Squints and Wendy Peppercorn and have something else happen for him to, woo her or, impress her. But that part is just, it really, I mean, it was just, I could barely watch it, to be perfectly honest. And so that is, that's the part I would change. I don't think it does not stand the test of time. It's one of the reasons why I couldn't give this movie, even though it had a lot of nostalgia for me. And I remember loving it back in the 90s. It could not be a home run for me in any way, shape, or form because of that scene, frankly. Notwithstanding some of the other, obviously the vomit scene I would live without as well. But yeah, Kate.
All right.
Sorry to be a downer.
No. So I watched this. My mom was visiting this week, and I watched this movie with her. And I said, when we started, I was like, I can think of one scene that would not fly today, like wouldn't work, and it was the lifeguard scene. But God, I love that scene. I only love it because I see myself in Squints.
Oh God!
In that, like,
that makes it worse.
And like,
that makes it worse.
Kate. Tiny little person, like, just I'm gonna go off the diving board. Like, it had nothing to do with. Okay. And let me say this. Part of the reason that I loved this movie is because it was everything that I wasn't. As a kid growing up, now I didn't put this together when I watched it in theaters when I was 5, but this movie, I wanted to be a part of something like that, of a group like this so bad. I was an only child. I played by myself all the time. I wanted to be good at sports, but I was horrible. I got picked last every single time in any single sport on the playground. So I think that's why I love this movie so much, is because they had what I wanted. I wanted to be Smalls, who was called the L7 weenie, who was called the nerd or whatever. And by the end, I wasn't wearing the hat that was like way too big with a fish on it. And I had the dirty baseball tee and I knew how to throw a ball. I think that is why I love this movie. And I can see past the things of the vomit and the lifeguard scene and even the bullying that happened. One of my favorite parts is when Ham is the umpire and he's just mocking the kids who are batting. And it's just so, also most of that was improv. If I had to change anything, I'd probably rewrite the lifeguard scene to be something not quite as inappropriate. I just feel like all of the characters just grew because I love this movie.
Listen, you can admire somebody being bold and taking a chance on their crush who is older and more mature than them. I think there are things you can appreciate about the character Squints, but I don't think you can set apart that scene. That's where I come in from it.
Another fact that you may not have known is they filmed all of this in Utah in 42 days. Some of those days it was 101 degrees and the kid who played Squints passed out. But on the day that they filmed the lifeguard scene, it was 55 degrees. So when you see those kids with their teeth chattering, that was real. All right, Derek, you go.
I'm going to say one thing while we're still talking about the lifeguard scene. I think I could be on Kate's side if how they portrayed after the scene, if the lifeguard wasn't so oh, it's okay because he's 10, and he doesn't know any better. Like if they had just left it as like she was really annoyed and angry and threw him out and that was it and she wasn't tolerated of it, I'd be like, okay, at least, she stood up for herself and she stood her ground. But then they made it like, but every time that he walked by the pool, she would do this, like she was flattered. And to me, that was just the part that was like, okay, well now it's just
More than that, she married him.
Married him, exactly.
I didn't even know.
Yeah, they
And
narrate.
mine
It's in the
did.
narration. Yeah, the narration at the end, you find that out. Yeah, I agree with you on that, Rebecca.
Grody.
Sorry, Derek. We're cutting into
Yeah.
your
I mean,
opinion.
Let's definitely say this. They would do that scene differently now.
Mhm.
Definitely.
Okay.
Go ahead, Derek.
Pete,
Sorry.
I'm actually going to push back against something you said. I don't think you should include girls in the team. And I have a reason why. Because middle school boys typically don't hang out with a bunch of middle school girls.
They do hang out with the one or two tomboy girls, because I was one of them. So, and Rebecca is one of them too. So I played with my neighborhood was mostly boys, and so I like of my age, and so my sister and we would go play like street hockey, roller hockey, baseball, running bases. We didn't play football, but we played like everything else with the boys. And that was in elementary school all the way through middle school. In high school, that changed. But yeah, I think there are usually a couple of girls, but maybe not. I don't agree. It wouldn't be like 50-50, but maybe one or two girls.
Well, that's what I said was one or two.
Yeah.
I'd even go back in the 60s, though. I'm not sure it would have happened.
That may be true. That would have been the time frame in which it's set is relevant to that discussion for sure.
So, okay, Kate, first, bless you. Second, Ryan says that Kate says squints is the mental image we need tonight.
Yeah.
Okay, so
why aren't you wearing the
Kate?
glasses, Kate?
They're in the. If I had thought ahead, they're in the other room. Listen, 2 weeks from now, I got you.
So, as we usually do for any new movie we see, we give it a number. How many number of cups of Pixie Dust out of 5? Kate, I'm starting with you. Pixie Dust out of 5. How many cups?
Well, I was gonna say 5, but now Sam got me thinking about things.
That's what I'm here for.
I gotta go with my gut, even though it has that scene that's questionable. I just remember, and I'm going to preface this by saying I am giving this based on nostalgia is why I am giving it a 5, because this movie was everything that I wanted to be. I lived vicariously through this movie. I wanted those friends. I wanted to be picked. I wanted to be valued. I wanted to be part of a team. And so even just watching this movie the whole time, I would look at my mom and I'd be like, God, this movie's so good. Even when Smalls is like, don't be a goofus. Don't be a goofus. Don't be a goofus. I was like, well, that resonates. That's what my tombstone is going to say is Kate Garnes. She was not a goofus. Like that's it. So I got to give it a 5.
Yeah, I'm at a 4.5. I mean, I liked it. This is a movie that I will, if someone says, hey, let's watch The Sandlot, it's, yeah, let's watch The Sandlot. My wife and I were going to sit down. I said, I need to watch about the first 20 minutes because I haven't watched it in a while. We watched the whole movie. And it was a date night for us. So we just sat and watched The Sandlot. So she loves it just as much as I do. Is it in the all-time greats? No. Is it in that second tier? Absolutely. So I'm at a 4.5. Pete?
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 4 because I agree. As I said, is there a couple things I would probably change? Yeah. Overall, just very so nostalgic for childhood movie, and it was still funny, which is to me, because I said I didn't really remember it. It wasn't nostalgia for the movie itself for me. It was nostalgia for the time or for that time of life, but I genuinely was laughing throughout this movie even some of the really silly stuff, like when they're trying to get the ball back and every time it would go wrong, they'd all be like, ah, and they do it over and over again. You'd think that's really stupid, but I really was, I laughed at it every time. So 4 for me. Rebecca?
I'm gonna give it a solid 1. Mostly because the lifeguard scene, yeah. Another thing that I guess I didn't touch up on that I didn't really appreciate was like, why were they cussing? To see like little, I know that like, okay, it's sports talk, it's locker humor, whatever.
Middle school boys.
I do know all of that, but like, I have this such pure idea of what little boys are. And maybe it's because my brother is like the greatest thing on the earth and he's, not like that. Shout out to Sam.
Oh, sure, he's not.
No, when I tell you he's quite literally perfect. He has never in his life done anything wrong. That's how I imagine and how I want all of my kids to be, is exactly like him. And so I don't like watching, a bunch of mean bullyish kids cussing, doing all this bad stuff and stuff. So I have this mental image of what I want kids to be, and it's just not this movie. And then the 2 obvious reasons with both of the scenes that I think should be removed as well. So I'm gonna just give it a 1. Sam, what do you think?
Okay, so I'm gonna rate it quite a bit better than you, Rebecca, but it's still gonna be in the low end, and I have to give this a 2.5, and I'm giving it that good because there are a lot of funny scenes. It is entertaining for a lot of the movie. It does bring back all that nostalgia, and it is a sports movie. And I really have to say, I like, Derek, something you said earlier, that it is a sports movie that isn't all about winning a competition. And that is one really amazing thing about this movie. But it's just so cringy to me. I just had a really hard time watching it. I did watch the whole thing because I was like, I really should watch this again. It's been several years since I watched it. And yeah, I gotta give it a 2.5. Yeah. And I don't think I'm gonna watch it again, I'll be honest.
Rebecca,
So I do want to say,
I was going to say, Rebecca,
go ahead.
As a rebuttal, as a former middle school teacher and the parent of a 7th grader going on 8th grader, this is very realistic. If anything, they toned the swearing down some.
I know that too, because I used to work in a school with not even middle schoolers, but also elementary kids. And you have 4th and 5th graders that talk just disgusting. And I know that it's true, but if I can do anything right, it's to raise my kids to be exactly how my brother was raised. So that's what I'm going to try.
So I did want to make a comment on the bullying. I don't think, to me, the bullying in this movie is not that bad, because the new kid came along, they picked on him a little bit, but they rapidly brought him into the team. The lead guy was the whole time going, come on, let's let him go. And then other than that, they were just picking on each other like boys pick on each other. They were calling each other names and things like that. But it wasn't really about like putting someone down and making them feel bad, which is the real problem of bullying. It was the teasing that you do with friends. And I don't think, and even when the other team came along and they were like, kind of
I don't
calling
think
each other names.
I don't think this is the worst movie for bullying. It's not, and it's not really what they were saying to each other as teammates once Scott becomes a part of the gang. It's really the way they were willing to bully and exclude him before Benny makes it so it's okay to be friends with him. That was the part that I didn't like. I understand this is not, it's not in the realm of bullying. It's certainly on the milder end, but poor Scott, can you imagine if Benny wasn't there? If Benny wasn't a character in this movie, Scott never would have gotten to play with these other kids. He would have been alone the entire summer playing on his erector sets, and he would have started school in the fall with no friends. So it requires, I do like that there was a character Benny, right? It requires a kid like Benny to bring him in, but that's kind of a bummer that it was only Benny.
Okay.
I
get what you're saying, but that isn't what happened. So, the story was they brought him in. So that's why I'm saying it's not that bad.
I guess for me, a lot of it too is as I was watching it, kind of relived or like triggers some of my own trauma. Probably I moved when I was just around his age to Texas, and I didn't. I remember have a vivid memory of sitting in the classroom by myself until finally someone was like, "Oh, well, no, she's fine. Like we'll be friends with her. Like we'll pick it up, for nobody else that wants to be friends with her and stuff." And so I was watching it too. Like it's just gross. I don't know.
I would have been friends with you.
Thanks.
I would have been friends with you.
Now, speaking of someone with no friends, we watched an episode of Loki this week. How's that for a segue? So, watched Loki episode 4 this week. And for now, the big question is, guys, who's behind it all? Who's behind the TVA? Who's behind it all? Sam, who you got behind the TVA?
Oh my God, you guys, there are a million theories going out there in the universe right now. Online, there's just all kinds of theories. The two that I'm kind of racking in my brain is Kang the Conqueror, right? We all know he's coming. He's going to be a new villain in I forget which movie it is, but he's going to be the new villain coming into the MCU. He's a villain in the comic books. He could be behind this all. The other interesting character is the cartoon Miss Minutes, who we saw at the TVA. She did all the videos, right? But we realized that she's like a sentient being because she was talking to Loki a few times in the series. So I'm not sure which one it is, but I think it's going to be interesting to see. It would be nice for them to kind of introduce Kang, though, in this series before he's a villain in the movies. I don't know. What do you think, Kate?
Listen, y'all. Okay. For those of you following along at home, Kate is taking a journey chronologically through the Marvel Cinematic Universe, including television shows. We have just watched Captain Marvel, which is a great movie. I am struggling so hard to understand what's happening. And I am trying. I am asking so many questions. I am Googling. For some reason, the idea of the variants and like they are Loki, but they're not Loki. But wait, a variant is it's like a person who I had to ask my boyfriend so many questions because
#confused Kate.
So confused. and not for lack of trying to understand. That's what was so frustrating is I finally finished the 4th episode and I was like, yo, I still don't get it, except that I know that there's a Loki that likes gators at some point, like that is holding a gator or something like that.
No, the gator is Loki also.
The gator is a Loki.
Oh my God, you guys!
It's ridiculous, but yes.
I'm trying. And it's not for lack of having watched the past movies and all the things. They got rid of my voice crush, like Owen Wilson. I could listen to that man read the number pi like in its entirety, and I would probably still be in love with him. So
okay, but they got rid of him in the exact same way that they got rid of Loki.
Yeah, no,
right. So we don't know.
Right. Because I know Rebecca messaged our group chat and was like, "Yo, this ending." And everybody was like, "Oh my God." And so I was expecting someone who shall remain nameless to show up and be like, "Oh no, look at all the things." I really expected like a bigger twist. I am not enjoying it, but it's not because it's not good. It's because I'm just really struggling to understand what's going on. So Derek,
it was quite confusing.
Woof.
Okay. I've heard the Kang theory. I've got another one for you. Marin Mordo from Doctor Strange.
I saw that theory also. Because
that's a bad guy that has gotten away and we've seen nothing again. And if Marvel loves nothing else, it's to put villains out there and then to bring them back like 7-10 years later. And, oh, by the way, this person's really, 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 really important. So Sam mentioned Kang. He is coming out. His debut's in theory in the Ant-Man movie. So
thank you. I couldn't remember which one it was.
The multiverse is tying into the new Spider-Man movie that's coming out. It's going to tie into Wanda. Interesting thought. What if Wanda's kids are being held prisoner by the TVA? Just a thought.
Ooh.
So, but Marin Mordo is my main thought. Pete, who you got behind it all?
I don't really care. I'm just enjoying the heck out of this show.
Oh.
and I have no clue. I honestly have no clue who it is. It could even be another Loki. I don't know, but I don't even care. I'm just having so much fun with the show. That ending where, there's like the 3 other Lokis and the alligator Loki. I was like, that's brilliant. Sorry. That's brilliant. So
It was
I'm just enjoying the heck out of
ridiculous.
this show.
Yeah, it was ridiculous
It was
and brilliant.
ridiculous. Yes, it was ridiculous, but it was also brilliant because the whole thing is ridiculous. And to me, you just got to kind of ride with it. And I'm sure it's not going to get any less ridiculous in the last 2 episodes. And I am dying to see them, and I'm really looking forward to it. This is far and away my favorite Marvel show so far of the 3. So and of the ones that don't count anymore either. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and all those. So
This is your favorite of all of them?
Of the shows, yes.
Really?
Not my favorite Marvel thing.
Wow.
I like some of the movies
All right.
better, but I think
I
this
respect
is
that.
I'm just having so much fun with this. It's and I guess I'm not worrying about does it make any sense or anything like that. I find anything with time travel, just check your brain, because none of it, if you think too much about it, none of it makes sense.
But see, Pete, I try to check my brain, and my brain's like, no. There's a meaning to this. We're gonna miss something.
There's different Lokis from different timelines, somehow all in the same place. That's it.
And somehow
That's
they're
you
all
need to know.
Loki, even though they don't look alike.
And they're
or
all
anything.
Loki. Yeah. Yep. And they all have a glorious purpose. Rebecca, what do you think?
Well, I'm kind of in the same realm as you are, Pete. I was so blown away by everything else happening in the show and just the story that they created that I didn't even have time. Like, my first question was not who is in charge of the TVA if it's not the timekeepers. My first thought was, oh my goodness, now I was dreaded that they killed him. I was like, this is not, my jaw dropped. I was like not on the verge of tears, but I was literally there like, no, like there's nothing that I want more than to just see this character, and Tom Hiddleston play this character first and foremost, like nothing else that I wanted more. And so for that end credit scene, for him to wake up and, oh, am I dying? Am I dead? And all of the, I was like there is a way for him to stay alive and for them to just develop this character more. I had seen a theory that the kid Loki that's holding the gator in the end credit scene is part of the Young Avenger crew. I don't know if that is true. It's mostly just a rumor right now.
I can see it.
Yeah, and then also that one of the Lokis, I guess, was in there holding a hammer, which they think could have been a variant of Thor. So I'm excited to see if maybe there's all of these variants of all the Avengers that we're going to meet. Maybe there's a variant of Chris Evans in there somewhere lurking the street. I'm okay with that. Like there's nothing more. This, and may shock everybody, is my favorite Marvel thing of any of it.
Wow.
Movie, TV show, any.
Wait.
No, yeah.
Wait. Of more than Thor Ragnarok?
Yes.
Wow.
And I just recently watched Ragnarok because I was like, I just want to, find something to laugh about. And I love Hulk, just not as much as I love Thor and Loki, obviously, but I love those. Those are my top 3 characters of all the Avengers. And I hate to say it, it really is just Tom Hiddleston. Like I haven't felt this way about an actor since Leonardo DiCaprio, and I know it's really, really
Titanic,
cringy.
you're
and
so
I'm
cute.
so sorry.
You're so
Titanic?
cute, Rebecca.
I'm like
Okay.
blushing. Like I don't know what it is. Like it really, he's just amazing. I really and
Does
I mean,
Willie know how you feel?
yes, and it's okay because he kind of feels similar to Sophia DiMartino and Sylvie, and so we just watch the show and we enjoy it together. So it's okay, I promise.
This is reminding me of the Friends episode where Ross and Rachel have a
Oh,
list, the
Ross.
list of 5, and then one of his former 5 walks into the Central Perk, but he like already took her off his list. Sorry, it's cracking me up.
It's
Oh my
laminated.
goodness. It's laminated. What do you mean it's not final? Anyway, I just love it.
Yeah. Ryan says he has literally no idea who could be behind it. Gina thought another Loki because so many Loki.
Yep.
Yeah, and Ryan does say, hold on, comparing Tom to Leo. I don't know, Ryan.
Back
I don't
up,
get it.
Ryan.
It's
It's
Yeah,
not
I don't
fair
know.
comparison.
I am not comparing the two because they have played such different characters
Absolutely.
in their whatever it's called, their portfolios, I guess.
Career.
Yes. But when I was growing up, Titanic was the movie that hitched me. I've watched almost every single Leonardo DiCaprio movie since then, have always been, amazed with him and what he does, and favorite actor of all time. And it hasn't been since I watched Tom Hiddleston in Loki that I have had something since. So
Ryan says he just wants to know that what Owen Wilson did to become a variant, and if he doesn't get to ride a jet ski at the end, I'll riot. Excellent segue, Ryan, into our last point for tonight, which is what do we want from the last 2 episodes? We're not going to be on again until after the finale. So, and I guess it's my turn to start this. I think it needs to come to as much of a conclusion as it can. I don't really care about any of the characters. It's an okay story, but there is, tell me with 2 episodes left if anybody really thought they were going to kill off Loki. I mean, no.
No.
No, but they could have killed off Tom Hiddleston Loki.
maybe.
And
No,
had
they
it be
wouldn't.
a variant Loki.
No.
Well, when I saw them purge him, I felt like Rebecca felt, which was like shock, panic, like my heart was ripped out of my chest. Like,
But you had to know
they
he was
can't
coming
do
back.
this.
You had to know
No,
he
I
was coming.
didn't. I
Really?
didn't in the moment. I didn't. When in the end credit scene, it all made sense. Of course, they couldn't kill him off, but honestly, in the moment, I had this like utter fear and panic.
Yeah. And now it's, with the Owen Wilson thing, now that we know that pruning isn't forever, we
Right.
know he's out there somewhere. So it's just all of a sudden the pruning has
No
no
sense.
impact, I will say this is confirming to me that there are stories that should just be 2.5-hour movies.
No.
This feels, episode 1 could have been done in 15 minutes.
No.
Yeah.
I don't agree with you at all because they had to have the time. Like the 3rd episode, which was just basically Tom Hiddleston and
right.
Well, let's say
Sylvie.
Loki and Sylvia.
Yeah.
Like that is all to establish the characters and to establish their rapport with each other. And I totally disagree with you. I'm not even sure that I agree with you that the pruning has no weight to it. It's a different weight than we thought, but I think there's still going to be weight to it because nobody comes back from it. So, or at least so far, nobody's come back from it. So I think there's still something going on there. But yeah, I agree. When I saw Owen Wilson get it, I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. They killed off that character. But as soon as I saw Tom Hiddleston, I was like, oh, there's going to be some other thing that's going on here. Even without the ending, I figured they're not going to give us a new lead character 2 episodes to go. So, I don't know. I want a season 2. That's all I want at this stage. I agree. I want the story to wrap up, but I want them to set it up with something that's going to give me another season of this with this character, and hopefully Sylvie too, because I'm really enjoying her as well. So I I'm really hoping that at the end, the two of them fly off into the sunset or whatever, whatever weirdness. Though my daughter keeps complaining that, you know,
I don't
it's
know.
kind of
It
creepy
seems-
that he's like making googly eyes with himself, but but no, I'm enjoying the heck out of the show. So yeah, I want to find out, but I want to find out who's run the TVA. That if they do not give us that by the end of the season, that will be very disappointing because everything's been leading up to that. So that's my opinion. What about you, Rebecca?
The only thing that I want to see is that there's more of it than just this first season. Willie did make an excellent point that all of the rest of the TV shows that Marvel has done have always had some type of passing the torch moment, which is why when Loki was pruned, I thought that it was for real because they could be passing the torch off to Sylvie and bringing her in, and she could become part of this the same way they did with Wanda with Rambeau, the same way with Falcon and the Soldier. They've kind of all passed the torch, and we have this new Falcon character coming up. That it was very, very possible that that could have just been the end of Loki, and now Sylvie has to figure out what's going on with the rest of the TVA. I'm very happy that it's not that way, that he is still out there. And I mean, I've sent you guys articles before that this is rumored for 3 seasons. So the only thing, I don't care if the TVA never gets figured out. I think it would be amazing if they lead it all up to this final moment and you find out who it is, but nothing else comes from it. So the next season is all about, telling everybody else, all the other variants. I think a storyline where we figure out what happened to not Mobius, but the girl that, pruned Loki, figure out her story. She's also a variant if everyone else is that works for them. So does she figure that out? Or, I mean, that she knows, but does she know her life? Does she know what she did and stuff? So that's all that I'm really looking forward to. What do you think, Sam?
So my prediction about Kang has to do with her, the character you just mentioned, Judge. I think it's Remslayer is her name, and so she apparently has a connection to Kang the Conqueror in the comic books, and so that was part of why I'm predicting that Kang is, or that one of the predictions I think is well founded is that. What I want from the last 2 episodes, I don't really want Loki and Sylvie to get together because I do think it's a little incestuous and weird. I don't like that part. I did think it was funny that they did that, but I don't really actually want them to get together. I'll be honest. I'm enjoying the series, but I'm also #confused Kate by some of the time travel and the variant stuff. And so I am trying to do, though, as Pete tells us to do, which is to suspend your reality, stop thinking so hard about it and just enjoy it. And that's what I've been doing. So I had the same panic moments though that Rebecca, and the same thoughts were going through my head about, oh my God, this could be how Sylvie takes over being Loki really in the MCU. And so, but yeah, I think that's not going to happen. I'm actually predicting we might not see more of Mobius. I think there could be a twist where only the Lokis have figured out how to escape from the purging being like a final killing. I'm not sure, but I think that's a possibility that Mobius and other people who are purged could actually be dead and gone, whereas the Lokis could have figured because of their magic or something, they're able to escape from the purging. Anyway, Kate, over to you.
Simple sentence. Please make it make sense. That's all.
Not gonna happen.
Okay. Ryan's prediction has a prediction. It's all magic. Strong magic makes it so Loki can't use his. I have seen something on there where there's a thought that there's symbols behind the 3 robots were runes to where that's why the Lokis can't use their magic in the thing. So, as if Kate wasn't confused enough.
What?
Yeah.
I know.
Okay, think back to the end of WandaVision.
It was Agatha all along.
Yeah. So, wait.
That's right. It's gonna be Agatha. Holy crap!
It was Agatha all along. Quote me on that.
I would love that twist. I would love that twist. So, for next week, this is a reminder: we do not have a show next week. Okay. We are going dark next week. We're taking next week off. In 2 weeks, we are moving to Tuesdays. Disney's going to start releasing series on Wednesdays and movies on Fridays. So we're going to be moving to Tuesdays starting July 20th. On July 20th, we will be talking about the Loki finale and the first episodes of Monsters at Work. So that's what we have coming up. We will see you in 13 days at Tuesday on 9 o'clock. Please Facebook us, like, share, YouTube, everything. So with that being said, guys, if no one has anything else, I think that's it for the night. So good night, everyone.
See you. Good night. We'll see you on the 20th.
Bye, friends.
Bye, Miss Minutes.
Thanks for watching this week's episode of the Plus Platoon. Be sure to subscribe to the Plus Platoon podcast to keep getting great content each week. Then head over to Apple Podcasts and leave those 5-star reviews as they help make the Plus Platoon visible to even more Disney Plus fans. Also, go to YouTube and like and subscribe to the Plus Platoon channel, where you can watch all future episodes live. If you have a question for the Plus Platoon, please send us an email to plusplatoon@gmail.com or connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram @plusplatoon.
The Plus Platoon is a Disney Plus fan podcast and is not affiliated with the Walt Disney Company or the Disney Plus streaming service. All opinions expressed on the show are solely those of the individual hosts and in no way reflect the views of the Walt Disney Company.
Thanks for watching, and be sure to stay tuned for next week's episode because the Plus Platoon is to be continued.